What's up, guys? This is Ryan from Elevate Security, and I decided to make this a two-part little video series on the OSCP tool breakdown of Nmap. This one's going to be more advanced, getting into even more granular things that I do with Nmap and really get the most out of it. So this isn't going to cover everything because Nmap is massive and everyone uses it a little bit different. But these are some of the more advanced ways that I've found it to be useful to me, whether it be on the job or in OSCP, Hack the Box, sometimes CTF, stuff like that. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it because yeah, there's a lot there's a lot to cover here. So in the last video, link in the cards, if you watched all the way through, you would have seen all the basic stuff like TCP scanning, short, full, all ports or whatever, UDP, same thing, IPv6, right? That's just your basic way. Now in this one, I'm gonna cover like getting really granular into enumerating certain open ports. So this is what I like to call a targeted port scan. So for a targeted port scan, I can maybe use what I had from the last video to illustrate this. So in the last video, we got some open ports, right? So if I just cat short.nmap, we can see what that was. So we had port 22 and port 80. Okay, port 80 is a good example for this. So let's just use that here, right? So for a targeted port scan, what we want to do is we want to run nmap, and we give it the port that we are going to focus on here. In this case, only port 80. If we had a list of ports, we could comma separate them and enter them in like so. But in this case, we're just going to run this on port 80, really targeted port scan on it. So after that, we're going to run the default scripts, and we're going to run sv enumerate version, and then we're going to do the name, OA and the name. So we're going to call this, what should we call this? 80 underscore targeted. I don't know. Whatever you want to name it, whatever your convention is, definitely go with that. Just be consistent. It'll be a lot easier. You'll thank yourself later. But last thing we're going to do is we're going to tell it to run the vuln script. So this is going to be, this is what's going to really separate it as a targeted scan. Of course, you only want to do this when you aren't too concerned with, more aggressive testing, because, this is definitely more aggressive than just running the default scripts, which are all like sort of safe scripts. So we run this, then we give it the IP address lastly, as usual. So we will go ahead and run this. Now, so this is going to look for vulnerabilities like in the web server and stuff like that. There's certain protocols where running the vuln script is more lucrative than others. Port 80 is a decent bet. 22 usually not. Definitely if it's like a 445 or something, that would be really good. It might like run like the eternal blue checker to see if it's vulnerable to eternal blue, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll give this a chance to run, and while it is running, we can also go over some other stuff here. I do have a script that will take, say we have a lot of open ports and we want to run like a vuln script on all of the open ports. I do have a script that will take the nmap output and then grab all the stuff and put it in a comma separated list here to feed into the nmap command. That's like something that's super like granular and not often needed, so I'm not gonna really bother all the time it would take to illustrate that, but let me know if that's something that you guys would like to see. The next thing I will talk about is like some web server enumeration. There's a lot of common ports that are seen as used for web servers. So those ports are like port 80, of course, that's your basic HTTP. Port 443, like your basic HTTPS default port. But also you'll often see web servers running on port 8000, port 8080, port 8443, right? Basically the same thing, just like 8 in front, right? 8443, see? Also, there's some other ones that are a little less standard, but sometimes it's like port 1000 and stuff like that, port 10,000 even. So yeah, these are your common web server ports, so keep that in mind. Now, anyone can use any port for anything. There's just a common convention, right? But security through obscurity is not a solution, really, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, if we want to run some web server enumeration on a site, the way I like to do that is do an nmash-p and then give it that comma-separated list. So going from, you know, our examples before, we could do something like this. And then after that, what I would follow that up with would be an Nmap script, a specific one called http enum. And that's like a enumeration script that it does on HTTP, right? So it's really as simple as that. Fire away. You can output it all formats, save it as something if you like to do that as well, of course. So that's that one. Now, I guess another thing that we should cover is the basic Nmap ping sweep. This one is not too advanced here, but it's definitely useful, especially if you know you need to sweep the network, see what is up and running, see what is not up and running. Or if you're doing a CTF and you're hosting the box on your network and you need to know which IP address corresponds to that box, this is when a ping sweep can be really useful. In the OSCP labs, you want to do ping sweeps and stuff to see, you know, what boxes are out there. Now keep in mind, this is not a definitive way to know what's online and what's offline, because some boxes or networks, or you know, they might be configured to not allow what's it called, ICMP requests, not allow ping, not respond to ping rather. So just because it's not responding to the ping doesn't mean it's necessarily not accessible. It just means it's not responding to the ping, right? So keep that in mind. This is not a foolproof way to know, but you know, like here's an example, right? You can do this -254, which would do all of them, or you can do the other notation here, right? So whatever notation you prefer to use, you can use. And you could just save it. I like to save it, if I'm saving it, I like to save it to a greppable. OG is just the greppable Nmap format, gnmap. So something like that is what I would do. Then it would give me in a nice format where I can just use like various Linux commands to parse through that as I want, whether it's grep or cut or whatever, you know, said. But yeah, all the Linux nitty-gritty stuff we'll cover in another video. But that's the ping sweep. Another thing is you can look at some low-hanging fruits. Here we go. Look, that one just came back and it actually found some vulnerable stuff. So one of the scripts failed, it looks like. So it looked for CSRF. Look, this is how good this was, running this vuln script. It looked for CSRF vulnerabilities. It looked for DOM-based cross-site scripting, server header. It pulled the server header for us. Looked for some stored XSS. So see, it's trying some kind of intrusive stuff, so keep that in mind. This vuln script is pretty loud. If you're trying to be stealthy, you wouldn't want to run this because literally it's trying for stored cross-site scripting payloads. But now it pulled up all the CVEs related to this Apache web server. So that's something that you could kind of look through. It even sorts them by severity here. So you could even know how to prioritize which ones to look into. So, and this was just an example of how it ran on port 80 on HTTP. It would be completely different vuln scanning that it would be doing if it was on another port. All right, and the last thing is we're just gonna close this video out with covering some low-hanging fruit. So the way I like to go about scanning for some low-hanging fruit stuff is I do ST, which is like I believe let me just, I don't want to tell you guys wrong. And honestly, I don't use this command too much. I'm just going to do full disclaimer there. So ST is it's the full connect. That's what I thought. I just didn't want to say wrong. So yeah, TCP full connect scan. So in this case, we just do like a full connect, and we're going to do A, and that's going to run a bunch of default scanning. And we're just going to do on the top ports. In this case, we'll do like the top 20 ports, not 220, but top 20 ports. We give it, we can even give it like our file or our, the servers that we scanned in our ping sweep. So we can do something like this, -254, and put it in a greppable format. And we can call it top port sweep. So in this case, we're actually sweeping, but we're looking for specific ports, the top 20 ports. So I want to see what servers are running these top 20 services across this network here, right? So there's a lot of nifty ways you can use it. So these top 20 ports, these will be like our low-hanging fruit. So we're just going to look quickly across the network. This shouldn't take too long. It depends on the size of the network, of course. But yeah, that's a quick and dirty way to do something like that. Now, unfortunately, I still didn't cover everything I wanted to cover, and this video is getting kind of long. So we'll probably do like a third video on this. I really want to do this topic justice. So I hope you guys are finding this stuff of value. And I certainly wish I had this when I was starting out. So yeah, let me know any comments or whatever in the section below, and I will see you in the next video.